Hello and welcome to Auto Repair Shop Truths. My name is Kurt Bennett and I'm going to be using my 26 years of automotive repair shop experience to guide you from start to finish, from picking the right repair shop and dealing with whatever they throw at you, and how to save you money, and so much more, be it at a dealership or an aftermarket repair shop. I'm going to expose the behind-the-scenes workings and provide insights you won't find anywhere else, giving you the upper hand the next time that your check engine light comes on. You'll know how to pick the right shop, what to expect when you arrive at the front counter, how to handle the call that comes from the shop later on, and guidance on what to fix, and so much more. Nothing fancy here, folks, just auto shop repair truths. So let's get started on today's episode. That's right, folks. There's something out there that's kind of permeating its way throughout the repair shop industry, and I need to let you know about it because it's something that now that I've been introduced to it, several shops that I've been exposed to, they're all starting to try to use some segment of it, and I just want to advise you about it. What I'm going to tell you this episode is how to recognize it, but more importantly, how to avoid it from the very start, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. Now, this new trend, they're calling it, there's a few different names, but seems to be the one they're kind of leaning towards in most cases, is the 3 base rule. And I'll explain what that is in just a moment. I'll explain why it's bad, at least from my perspective, and the way I believe it's somewhat sinister in the way that they do it. I do know this, that for the service advisors that are being exposed to this, I get it, you know this industry, it has its villains and it has its heroes. You've met some of them. I hope that if you've ever been exposed to me, that you've come away from that experience with a good feeling, like I didn't try to take advantage of you. There's good people in this industry, and whenever these things kind of crop up, it kind of makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck, and there's only so much you can do as a rider to fight that, because this business model that they're trying to adopt, they watch it to make sure that you're doing it just that way. And if you're not, you're gone. So let me kind of start off with kind of like the old way or business as usual way that you might be used to up to now. So the scenario is you come into the repair shop, you meet your service advisor, you tell them, hey, my check engine light's on. Okay, we'll start with that simple example. And of course the technician will either quote you, we talked about, diagnostics and why it's important and why you should pay it and things like that. But so you approve the diagnostic, right? Well, as you know or may not know, kind of commonplace these days is no matter what you take that car in for, they're going to do a 27-point check, a 35-point check, a 100-point check. It varies from place to place. In the end, they're going to visually look over the car, right? From front to back, top to bottom, and everything. So that concept isn't new at all. Within the last probably several years, they introduced digital visual inspections. And so what that entails is they use an iPad or some device to take pictures or videos, and they go underneath the car, they go in the engine bay, they might take 3/4 shots of the car as it enters so that they're not blamed later for some scratches or dents that were there already. So that's been kind of commonplace, and even when they introduced that, the technicians, just because it's another step for them to do, it's not that it was a terrible idea. As a matter of fact, I for one am for that, because how many times has a service advisor came to you and said, hey, you got an oil leak? No, I haven't seen anything on the ground. And the reason for that is, as of late, most car manufacturers are putting these fancy engine undercovers underneath the engine and transmission and things like that, so that when and if there is a coolant leak, an oil leak, or something like that, it doesn't hit the ground. It actually will fall on that cover. You'll never see it. Now, how do we see it? Because when we're in there doing oil services, many of these cars make you take down and away this engine undercover. And believe it or not, that's why a lot of times after you leave for an oil change and you notice something dragging under your car, it's because the general service guy didn't put it back up right. That's what happens most of the time. So we pull it down to do service on the car and stuff like that. So while we have it down, of course, there it is, and just as big as day. So by doing the videos or the pictures, it actually shows you right? So it's kind of putting your eyes on it, makes you a believer. One of the sales tactics that they've used in the past, and I wouldn't call it a sales tactic, but more so like a confidence builder. So you're in the waiting room waiting to get your oil change done. I come and say, hey, you don't have an oil leak? No, I haven't seen one. Yeah, right. Sure, I haven't seen one. That guy's lying to me. So, hey, come out here for a second. I'm going to show you. So you kind of meander through the shop, you step over hoses and all that stuff, and you get up underneath there. Wow, you look, and sure enough, there is an oil leak underneath there. So it's a way to help the customer have confidence in what you're telling them. Nothing unfair, nothing ambiguous about that. So it's just kind of just to put your eyes on it to help you see what we're seeing. So the digital visual inspections that they do, that's to keep you from having to come from work or from home or even from the lobby and take a look at what we're seeing. And they'll also kind of take pictures of the air filters and show you how dirty they are and all this stuff. So has that been a good addition in the last several years? I personally think so. The technicians don't care for it. I think at the dealerships it's even worse because technicians by and large are gruff, rough individuals. That's the last person you want talking to your customer at a shop. And so the last thing they want to do is get on a iPad video and they literally tell them to introduce themselves, so it's like, hi, Mrs. Johnson, this is Kurt, I'm your tech, I'm looking over the car, this is what I'm finding. I'm walking underneath and I'm creating this video that the service advisor is going to send you later. And so they're not on board with it. They don't like it. They feel like this is like a labor operation. And like any other labor operation, change spark plugs, change water pump, they get paid from the labor time guide, what we were talking about in another episode. And so this is just another part of their day, part of their clock that they're not getting paid for. So that's kind of legitimate, So I don't know what the answer is to that unless we do start charging for it, an option to the customer. Do you want a full overall look of the car, which I don't think that's going to happen. Or the shop just decides, well, we need to pay him a couple tenths. We need to pay him a tenth or something like that to do the video inspection. Just something, pay the guy. He's working. So in the past, that's what has happened. They've taken the digital visual inspection, pictures, videos, sent it to you, and you've got to pull it up on they sent you an additional report that had all the pictures, and it would go red, yellow, green, and all that stuff. Like I said, that's a legitimate thing. What's happening now is in stark contrast to that. And whereas I didn't have a problem with it before, I don't really have a problem with it now, except in the way that it's presented to you. So again, back to our example of the check engine light. So you come in, and you leave, you go to work, you're on about your day. So I take the car back and I start looking for the cause of the check engine light. I got to find and fix your car for you. So the technician looks at the car and he determines that it needs a oxygen sensor. Okay, and while it's in, of course, we've done our 27-point check, we've taken our pictures, our videos. So the next communication from me, if all's going smoothly, if we haven't had a chance to look at the car all day long, I need to let you know around midday or so, hey, look, it's slow as molasses in the shop today. I apologize, we're going to get to it, we just haven't got to it yet. That'd be an update. Well, when I'm calling you to let you know what the check engine light fault is, I'm telling you not only that, of course, parts, labor, and all this stuff, and also time that I'm going to be able to get your car back to you, I'm also relaying anything that they found during the time the car was here. Now that goes for what caused the check engine light. If I see that you need brakes on your car, let's say they're down to almost metal to metal, I'm sure you want to know that. And then also what I've done in the meantime, while I was waiting for them to check the check engine light, I've went into the history on the car, either by Carfax, our history, and if I don't have either of those, I'm just going to make like a gentle judgment call where the car is at on mileage. And I'm going to make mileage-based service recommendations, transmission fluid, coolant, brake fluid, power steering, differential. All these things that have, just like an oil change has a time or mileage expiration basically, so do all the other fluids on the car. They last longer than engine oil does, but they still need to be changed out at intervals. So I've done my due diligence. I'm trying to help you by protecting these components in the car. And so when I call you or I contact you and I say, hey, Miss Jones, The oxygen sensors failed, and this is parts and labor to do it. And one of the things, I'll just share this with you, and this is a key thing that service advisors don't do, but they should. So when you dropped off earlier that morning and told me about the check engine light, I need to warn you. I need to give you some heads up that, hey, yes, Miss Jones, we'll check it for you. Hey, while it's in, we're going to give it a full bumper to bumper look over just to make you aware if there's any issues and stuff like that. Are you okay with that? Most people say yes, because it's free, quote unquote free. And people do, by and large, want to know if there's issues with their car. During the phone call, hey, Miss Jones, O2 sensor. And also, hey, remember I told you I was going to look over your car? That water pump on that thing, it's starting to trickle out. I mean, and those things, coolant leaks can suddenly go from just trickling to, peeing on the ground and overheating and stranding and all that. So I will sit there and I'll list out those things that I found, and then I'll touch on things like, hey, and also you're at 110,000 miles on your car. The tune-up portion of it is due. So thank goodness it's only due over 110,000, but that you're here now and it's time to do it. I'm going to price all this stuff out for you. I give you the whole picture in that one phone call, right? You're at work. I mean, you're at home. I mean, are you sitting at home anticipating, just waiting for Kurt to call and tell you that you've got all these, things to do on your car and pay out money you'd rather not pay out? But when I do call, I need to give you the full picture, okay? If I call you and I say, hey, your oxygen sensor's bad, but man, the radiator's leaking, the water pump's leaking, I see a transmission oil pan leaking. I looked at the whole history on this car. Not one fluid service has been done. It's got 150,000 miles on it. Are you planning on keeping this thing? Because if you are, I'm going to list out all this stuff, and we can make a game plan on how to address it the best way without, picking you up by your ankles and shaking every bit of change out of your pocket this visit. So we'll get together and make a plan. But in that one phone call, I'm sharing all that stuff with you. So let's say that by the time I get done talking about all this stuff, you're like, holy cow, man, let's say it's got 250,000 miles on it. And man, I did not know it was in that bad a shape. I don't know, we were actually talking about going and getting a different car and stuff like that. So, so we'll start to make a plan. Now, the knee-jerk reaction for a service advisor, when you start saying things like, I need to talk to my wife or my husband, or, oh man, that sounds like a lot of money, or, wow, I was thinking about getting a new car, or that's too expensive. I just can't do that right now. There's all these things, it's called defeating objections, and service advisors and sales are trained to defeat the objections that you post up. We're going to go over that in just a little bit. The old way, call once with all what's going on with the car. If there's any objections there to any of that, let's say that, yeah, you've got the money to fix your O2 sensor because you don't want to be stranded. You don't want to be overheated and stranded on the side of the road. So let's go ahead and take care of that water pump. Now, these fluid services you're mentioning, okay, the question is always going to be, how critical is that? Okay, so, hey, it's as critical as you want to keep that component alive and well. I mean, if you don't do the trans fluid service today, does that mean tomorrow your transmission won't shift right? Who knows? It may be a year before something like that would happen. It could be tomorrow. Who knows? But when you're talking to somebody about investing into their vehicle, that's your second largest purchase, your second largest investment. As a service writer, advisor, it's also called a service consultant, my job or my goal should be to advise you, consult you on the condition of what we found and the most logical way to go at fixing that, with the undertow of, I'm not trying to take every bit of money you have. Hey, if you've got the financial wherewithal to knock it all out today, good choice. Let's get it done, get this thing fixed up. But if you've got a family member battling cancer, you just sent your kids off to college and paid tuition and all this stuff, and what's my guidance going to be for you on that? Yes, let's take care of the check engine light. Let's take care of the water pump. But these other things, you need every fluid service on this thing. But I tell you what, why don't we knock one of them off? at your next oil change. And by the time you get done, maybe 2 of them, however you're going to want to proceed on that. And that way you get caught up on service. You're not totally neglecting the car. But yet today, you're not going to be eating cat food for months so you can pay for your transmission fluid service today. So that's my job as a service advisor, is to help you, right? And so that's why I have such a problem with what's going on or what's starting to trend in this industry. And that's why we're talking today. Now let's talk about the new system. A lot of people call it they got different titles for it. I'm going to call it like baseball: first base, second base, third base. That same scenario where you came in and you dropped it off with me, okay? I have a check engine light on. And in this example here, it doesn't matter if it's a state inspection, an oil change, a check engine light, whatever reason you bring it in for. Now, they're more than likely going to still tell you they're going to look the car over, and they should. It might make their job easier on the back end. You definitely should know about it so that you're not kind of sideswiped when they call you. And hey, we found all this other stuff, you know. And well, I didn't tell you to look over my car. Why did you do all that? I just came in for the check engine light. So there's all those things you can kind of keep from being an issue later by just simply mentioning this is what we're going to do. I mean, it's easy. It's no charge to the customer. You're going to do it anyway. I guarantee you they're going to do it anyway. You take it in, hey, my check engine light's on. Okay, yeah, Miss Jones, we'll call you here in a little bit. You know, we'll get you fixed up. You know, I'll call you in a little bit with an update. So the next steps that take place is where I have an issue with it. And then the final steps of this whole process, it's just snaky. I want to take a shower every time I start thinking about this. And as a service advisor that has integrity and doesn't like shell games and things like that, I struggle when I hear a shop that I may want to go to and work at is using that process, because I'm going to intentionally invite myself into that process, and I don't want to do that because it's not, I personally have a big objection to it. So this scenario, the car gets back to the tech, he's checking it. Now, whether he finds what's causing the check engine light quickly or not, doesn't matter. There's still, matter of fact, the first step in this new way is they're going to do something that's, they title it different things. One of them is called like a quick rack, a 15-minute rack check, or they're calling it a bunch of different things, but here's what happens. They're not going to look at the check engine light first, okay? Their main goal, as soon as you give them the keys and you head out the door, they've got that thing on a rack, and they have a swarm of general service technicians going over that car. Now, what they're doing at this point is the same thing that I described earlier in the old way, but they're just knocking it out in record time. The other way might be done by a general service guy or two, and they're slowly, methodically, very carefully looking over the car, making good recommendations. And it's not to say that they're not making good recommendations on this second way or the new way. They're just blasting through it. So they got 3 or 4 guys crawling all over the car. They start it on the ground, then they get it up around chest height so they can get a view, you know, of it being off the ground. Everything on ground would be like under the hood, walking around the car, things like that, checking inside, maybe playing with the AC controls and stuff like that. Get it up around chest high. They're going to try to look at the brakes. They may even pull wheels to look at the brakes. Then they get it up in the air. And then that goal is to go underneath the car where you might see oil leaks, you might see suspension concerns or issues, right? And so they boom, boom, boom. They're taking pictures, they're taking videos. Generally, the time constraint that they give themselves to do that is around 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, they time themselves. And with 3 or 4 guys doing it, why can't you do that? You know, so I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that portion of it. As a matter of fact, I, for one, wish that on the old way, we got the DVIs done quicker. And I'm not actually totally opposed to doing it before they even check it for the check engine light, because if you keep it to 15 to 20 minute time slot, you're not really causing any delay or anything like that as far as the overall visit to the shop for that whole entire day or whenever it will be. Now in the new way, they do that first. So During this check, they see that you need brakes. They're metal to metal. They see that you have an oil leak. They see that your ball joints are about to fall off, okay? All these are major issues, right? So they know all this. This is documented. They've got the pictures and the videos all set on the screen. They've got it set and ready. So then it goes in for the check engine light diagnostic. Okay, it's at this point that they actually check it for what you brought it in for. Okay, so let's say, for example, to just keep apples to apples, it's an O2 sensor. Okay, in contrast to the first way it was done or the older way, the new way, you're going to get a total of 3 phone calls. Okay, again, here's the snaky side of it. They already know that you need brakes. They know your ball joints are about to pop and have you with a catastrophic failure. They already know this. The safety things they already know. But when they call you or contact you, hey, Miss Jones, you have a quick minute? Hey, the check engine light we found, oh, good news. It's just an O2 sensor. The parts, labor, and tax to do that. I'll be able to get it for you today. If you need to loan a car, let me know. If you need a shuttle, let me know. And it's just a super, really nice, and you're thinking, wow, whew, I was sweating it. Wow, I thought it was gonna be a lot of money. Man, that was perfect service. They got me my answer quickly and all this stuff. And you commit to the repair. They'll send you an estimate, you approve it, sign it, whatever, however they're gonna get you to do that, verbal over the phone. They know you're locked in now for the O2 sensor. Now, again, it's important to understand they already know. They could have shared with you what they've already known, but here's what they do. They're going to give it about 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. It varies. Some shops have different mindsets on how they're going to do it. Ring, ring. Hey, Miss Jones, it's Kurt again. Hey, here at XYZ Automotive. Hey, can you have a quick second? Hey, well, one of the things we do when the cars come in here, we look it over from front to back, top to bottom. And here's what we found. Your front brakes are metal to metal. Oh, and your ball joints, they're about to fall off, and that could be a catastrophic event on the highway, a catastrophic event. And blah, blah, blah. And they tell you everything they found on that digital visual inspection. And I'm going to send you over this digital visual inspection. And just look it over, and if you have any questions, please ask, and here's the pricing and all this stuff. There's a quote. I'm going to send you the quote. Okay, just let me know. Thank you. Hang up. Well, there was first base to tell you what you brought it in originally for the check engine light. Second base was where I call you and tell you all these, things that they've identified, and think that it can be either safety related, you should do it, those kinds of things. Well, another 20, 25 minutes later. Now, this is only after they look for approval when they contact you on second base. They look to you for approval when they're talking about these things. Now, if I called you and I told you had an O2 sensor that's failed, you approved it. Now I call you back and tell you that your brakes, your ball joints could be a deadly situation on the freeway. What's your most likely answer? Most likely is you're going to want to fix that stuff, right? Because you don't want to die, all right? Now, so thank you, Ms. Jones. I get right on that. I'll get right on it. And I'll update you in a little while. Well, again, he already knows that your transmission fluid service is due. He already knows that your tune-up is overdue. So 15 to 20 minutes later, 25 minutes later, ring, ring. It's the shop again. What? Hello? Hey, Miss Jones, you have a quick few minutes? Well, while the car's in here, we not only, look it over for what it needs and what we found, but we also checked the service history on it. We found out that you haven't had a tune-up done lately and a transmission fluid service. And for the low price, and here's your estimate. Now, I don't know about you, but if I go to a doctor's office and I go in there for a full physical, I don't want the doctor to tell me that he found a cyst on my liver and then call me 5 days later and tell me, oh, also while it was in there, I found that you have a fractured hip. And then 5 days later, call me back and say, oh, hey, while we were in there, I noticed that you got the numbers on the cancer, your blood, I don't like the way that's looking. We need you. dude, tell me I've got cancer. Tell me I've got something going on in my liver. Tell me all that when I'm there at the doctor's office. And when you look at car repair and how human bodies work, car doctors, what a good play on words, right? Because we are literally car doctors. We're fixing cars, whereas doctors fix humans, right? So I don't know about you, but everyone that I've when I first started seeing this trend happen, of course, I talked to friends and family members that weren't in the industry, and they were like, that sounds terrible. I mean, I don't want someone to call me back multiple times, because not only are you not being told the full picture so you can get a good financial picture of what you're up against, you're being bothered several times a day, okay? And you're gonna get bothered a lot more, because justifiably so now, once the dust is settled and they've told you all this stuff, where they are going to give you updates today. Hey, Miss Jones, I thought I'd call you and tell you, hey, we're looking good on your car. It's still looking good for today. Or, hey, Miss Jones, boy, we anticipate a lot of work today. And of course, it's here, and I'm going to need your car tomorrow, but I can get you a loaner car if you'd like, and all this stuff. So the multiple phone calls, and this is a challenge and a problem, because a lot of these shops that have embraced this, they want to call over texting. And what used to, obviously, until the advent of texting became really big, phone calls was the way to do it, obviously. And so you had phone skills that you learned and all this stuff. But I find that by and large, when people drop their cars off for me today, I'll ask them, do you prefer me? I generally, communicate with texting. Say, oh yes, please, I prefer that. Because if you're in a board meeting, especially white collar people, or if you're not in white collar and you're out digging ditches or whatever you're doing, you can't stop and take a 15, 20-minute phone call 3 times. So to be texted this information is what I've kind of fallen into, and I've found that it's been most convenient for my customers that I deal with. And if you can type fast enough and you're articulate and you're educated and stuff like that, you can pretty much say everything you want to say in a text that you can in a phone call, and the customer then has time to read it in that board meeting, or during his break, the guy digging the ditch can take his phone out to say hi to his wife and say, oh, here's the shop, they're trying to let me know something, and read it at his leisure, you see. So, but these people typically want the phone calls, and there's a reason for that. So not only do you have these 3 different phone calls, so let's say that we get to the end of these 3 base touches, and let's say that you're really starting to have some real concerns about what they're telling you, and yes, you did agree to the O2 sensor when I first called you, and yes, you did agree to the brake fluid and the transmission fluid and all this stuff and the tune-up and all that when I called you the second time. I'm sorry, the second time I called you, the tune-up and the leaks or whatever. Well, now the third time I've called you, now we're talking about your fluids and all that stuff. So now let's say that you originally agreed to the first base, reluctantly agreed to the second base. Well, here's third base. And this is where this particular system, this particular new age way of doing it, they have a process that not only now have you been called 3 times by the one service advisor. So let's say that now you're starting to push back, right? I don't, man, this is going to take everything I got this month, and well, they're ready for that. So the service advisor typically, what's popular right now is they go off of scripts, okay? It's like set comments and set conversations with whatever pushback you're going to give. I've got to call my dad. I've got to, we need to think about it. Or we're thinking about buying a new car. Every issue that you can present to them, they've got to come back, okay? And so let's say that the first guy talking to you fails to do that. Let's say that no matter what, nothing this guy or girl is telling you is convincing you that you need to buy every bit of this, every bit of it. So they relent. But guess what? Here comes a second guy. Now this guy may be the manager. He may be hey, Miss Jones. Hey, I heard that you talked to Bobby and he told you what was going on with the car. Man, well, we hate it when things like this happen. But I tell you what, is there anything I can do to talk to you about getting this stuff done? And so now you're getting this second hit from this other guy. who may be a little more polished. He may be able to, what if I give you 10% off today? Would you consider doing it with us all today? And hey, don't worry about leaving it here with us overnight, because I've got a loaner car free of charge. I'll bring it to you. I'll bring it to you. You see, so at that point, and let's face it, sometimes some of these repairs are just from a convenience standpoint. So let's say that if I told you, if you do all this, I'll need it into tomorrow. I can't do that. I have to pick my kids up and all that stuff. A loaner car would help with it, all right? So that might be what gets you over the hump of actually doing the work. And that's understandable. And if some shop has the wherewithal to either shuttle you or give you a loaner car, wonderful. But so the second guy's job is to do what the first guy couldn't do, all right? So let's say that somehow, some way, you've got such intestinal fortitude, you're able to withstand the storm of this second guy. Well, you're going to get a third phone call. Now this guy is the master. He is the master. As a matter of fact, he loves it when people say no. He loves the challenge. Oh, you ain't gonna say no to me. And he'll get a phone call from him, and if he hasn't convinced you, you've weathered the storm. You've weathered it for now. Because a few days later, after you leave out of there, ring, ring. Hi, Miss Jones. This is Bobby over here at XYZ Automotive. Hey, I know we talked. Is there anything I can do to get you to get that where I'll give you a coupon, your next oil change for free? I mean, you're going to get it, right? I mean, so for that reason, now, for people who are sales orientated and they, you look at every transaction as just $1, right? Oh no, it's not about the money. It's about the customer. Yeah. If you're trying that hard and you've got all these different levels and steps and people to try to, I don't know if it's about the customer anymore. I think it's about, you're a shark that's got a drop of blood scent and you're heading towards it, and you're not going to give up till you find out where that blood is coming from, and you're going to feast. And I put it like that because this system is just so snaky. I don't have a problem with change, but I have to make sure that not only does it benefit the company, of course, it doesn't go against my integrity, and it helps the customer. It helps the customer because, again, my job is not to sit here and be solely focused on making the company money. I mean, I am black and white in a lot of ways. We have a saying in the industry: I didn't build it, buy it, or break it, but I can fix it. So many times customers, and we understand this, customers come in and they'll be upset that their car is in such a condition, why it needs so much repair, and why everything's costing so much. And that's why I went through the parts and labor, to kind of help you understand where all these numbers come from. We got to understand we're not the reason this is happening to you. So, it's kind of a weird animal when you're dealing with customers and the situation that the hand that life deals them. And so you will get some anger and poor feelings projected on you, being of service rather. But you just got to kind of understand that. You got to empathize with the customer. What if I went to the doctor, or what if I didn't know a thing about cars and I brought my car in and I got the same news? How am I going to feel about it? It's out of the blue. You're being flanked by it, But this new system, I think it's just, it's that anxious moment. Hey, Ms. Jones, your check-in's like, yes. It's an O2 sensor. It's $650, Whew, okay, well, thank goodness it wasn't worse. I know, right? I'll update you shortly. He already knows. He already knows it's worse. And so that's the big problem I have with it. Okay, now, I've had a chance to kind of communicate with some shops, talk to some shops. There are several shops that either are embracing it fully or they're kind of scaling it to where they think that they can incorporate this at their smaller shop where they might not have the wherewithal to, maybe they don't have loaner cars, stuff like that. So, but it's kind of there, thank goodness, not every shop has drank the Kool-Aid with this thing. So we're going to talk about how to avoid this so that you don't walk in there and get, popped. Which brings me to a funny story, and it's kind of an embarrassing story, but so when I got out of the service back in 92, or 91 rather, I had a German girlfriend for, quite a couple years while I was over there. Fell in love, and quite honestly, I didn't have anything to contrast with back in the States because I went in the Army at 18. I didn't really have any girlfriends and stuff to deal with or kind of compare to the way the European mindset was for femininity and all this kind of stuff. So when I came back and the German girl that I was engaged to, when that didn't work out, I was kind of stuck on and the European women. And I think this was more from what I was reading and seeing in the news versus, because now we're talking about these are independent women. They're not, they don't take any crap. And not saying that's good or bad, because in the end, I ended up marrying an American woman. But for whatever mindset I had at that time, and as sad as this is, I don't even remember how I came to get this thing, but there was a catalog of Russian ladies, and every one of them so beautiful. And I mean, I'm not talking about just 2 pages. I'm talking about a catalog like 20 pages thick, and it's front and back, and it's every one of them. Beautiful ladies, beautiful. And all of them, apparently because the academia over in Russia is quite different than here, they were psychiatrists, lawyers, chemists. So it's like you're gonna get a woman that can, immediately step out and start. Whereas here, at that time at least, in 1991, 92, 93, a little different animal. Of course, I wasn't living in a city per se like New York, LA, where I might have been exposed to different types of women and where they were at in their professional careers. But these women were focused and dedicated, and man, what if you're going to team up with somebody, And at the time, I was working at a place that I was making, and this was fresh out of the Army. Shouldn't have been making this much money, but I was making around $78 a year, and so I wanted someone who was going to bring, I guess you could say, bring something to the table immediately. And I was marriage minded, at that time. So in a desperation attempt, I started looking into those catalogs, but then the realization is, yes, there is the danger that they can come over here, marry you, and then leave you once they get citizenship. Who knows? But the only reason I'm telling you this is because when I chose not to go that route, I said, I'm going to go find me a good professional lady. And there was a service. Some of you may remember this. It was called Great Expectations, I think. There was a Mad TV comedy show that made kind of fun of it and stuff like that. And if you see on Instagram or anything today, I think they're pulling up old clips of men and women that are submitting their videos to be looked at, to be chosen. And some of them are so cringy and so weird, but that was the time. There was a lot of awkwardness about stuff like that. I mean, it was a relatively new kind of concept. So I made the mistake of going in, and I never forget it. I was dressed in my Nomex because I was working at a chemical plant at the time. I was bodybuilding, and so every 3 hours I needed to eat something. That's just how they do chicken and rice, chicken and potatoes, every 3 hours. And so I had my food with me, and I'd normally pull over at an Exxon or somewhere that had a microwave and heat it up real quick and eat it. I'd even take it to the movies with me sometimes, Depends on where I kept it. I tried to time it to where I wouldn't be eating while I was in there. So the scenario is, I just got off of days, which I think at that time my shift work was at 2:00. I was hungry. Now I thought this was going to be a quick exercise. I went downtown Houston. It was located in a suite in a one of the buildings downtown. Walked in, super nice lady. She got me in there. Like I said, I just got off I think it was an 8-hour shift. I knew that I was supposed to be eating in about an hour and a half. So I figured this meetup would only last about 30, 45 minutes. So get out of there, eat, head on home. Bob's your uncle, And so my first exposure to defeating objections I was there for about 4 hours. By the time I left out of there, I barely got out of there. But they brought in a second person and they were tag teaming. He said, well, Kurt, you said this would work for you. What's the problem? We can take payment right now. We can take cash, check, or charge. I mean, it was exhaustive. I had a massive headache because I was hungry and I hadn't ate. And of course, if you're a bodybuilder and you know about the every 3 hour thing, you don't even have to look at a clock. Your stomach on cue will, it's time to eat. And so I'm tired. I got a massive headache. I just want to get out of here, but they're making it so hard for me to say no. And so ended up not doing it, of course. Like I said, I did get out of there and I ate my food cold in the car. I was so hungry. But my first exposure to high sales tactics like that, and I'm sure you guys got stories too, whether it be buying a home, buying something else, buying car repairs, it can be a nightmare. It can be, it's like you're being subjected to torture almost, And some of the stories I've heard from some of these shops that are incorporating this new thing, like for instance, one of the stories I heard was, this guy fought to the end. He fought to the very end. Took the third phone call from the guy that says, I love, they say no. Took that phone call. Sold the job, sold every bit of it. The guy comes to pick the car up. Okay, now he's had a day or two or three. I forget what the time constraint was, but he's had some time to think about it. Now, the pressure, that moment there he was caught up in where everything he said was countered and made to look like that was the wrong answer, sir. You just need to say yes, yes, yes. Well, the guy's had some time to think about it. So he comes up to pick his car up and he tells the guy, somehow, some way they meet him at the counter. He says, man, I should have never let you talk me into this. I mean, now this guy's had time to really look at his finances. Now that the euphoria and whatever, it makes me think of Jungle Book when Mowgli's trapped in, with a snake and those eyes are doing this, trust in me, and so, the guy's been mesmerized, and now that spell has worn off, now here's the reality of the moment. He's about to drop $5,000, and he's having some real issues with that now. Don't worry. They helped him. They helped him understand why it all had to be done. They mesmerized him again right there. Right there. They mesmerized him again, And these guys are telling these stories like it doesn't affect people. Who knows what that guy's story was? You catch different personalities. You know as well as I do. There's some people that you couldn't sell anything to. They're just that strong. And then there's some people that they're just walked all over, and they have been their whole entire life. And so what if this guy was that guy? And he can't pay his house note. Now he can't pay his light bill. He's sitting there with a car in the driveway that he can't go drive because he can't afford to put gas in it. And he's burning up in the house because his lights got turned off because he couldn't pay his light bill that month because he trusted in these people. That's my guidance. Now I'm going to try to help you avoid this. And it's somewhat quite simple. Miss Jones, you walk in and you stand in front of that service advisor and you tell him that your check engine light's on. You agree to the diagnostic. And he may or he may not say, now we're going to look the car over the rest of the way bumper to bumper. You may or may not want that done. I can tell you it's going to get done anyway, for the most part. But you at that moment say, now listen, I know there's some kind of system going on right now where you guys are going to know already when you call me about everything. And he may be like, huh? And that may be the case. But you tell him this, there's some kind of system going on out there that I've been warned about and I'm not going to take part of. So let me just tell you this. You're going to have one opportunity to sell to me. When you call me, you tell me what my check engine light's on for, and you tell me everything else. If I need brakes, if I need transmission fluid services, whatever it is, you tell me everything. Otherwise, I can make a promise to you like this. I don't care how many people you put in line to call me. I will never buy anything else that you're recommending to me, and I will never come back. Play those games with somebody else. Now, he may be taken aback. Maybe they don't do that there. You're not going to know that. But if you clearly stipulate that, one of two things is going to happen. If they do that there, you're not going to get all those phone calls. If they don't do that there, they're just going to do what they'd always done and tell you everything all at once on the same phone call. You can mitigate this being victimized and played with and all this stuff by simply telling them, I don't do this. I've heard this is a new trend that's going on in automotive repair shops. I'm not going to participate in this. Now, at that point, they can also say, well, ma'am, that's just the way we do it here. Or they may say, oh, okay, I understand, and still intend to do that. And then what they'll tend to do is something like say, get a load of her, huh? Yeah, wow. Well, I'm still going to do it like Tom says we have to do it. And if she don't want to do it, then she's not our customer. They'll literally put you, they'll say, well, you're not my customer if you don't want to let me do what I want to do to you. And it's not that you're not going to do what they're going to ask. You're just dictating what's going to happen in the way that they present it to you. That's it. I think that is so fair to ask someone to do that to you rather than try to play these little games and get you to commit to something and then just keep compounding it. And to the point where you get so up underneath it, you're up to your shoulders trying to, suck air as you're about to go under. And then they've got basically defeating the objection of you trying to suck some air, so that's my guidance to you. I think any of you that have ever dealt with me have got that feeling that I'm not there to take advantage of you. I haven't always given you the best of what you wanted to hear, but I told you what was truth. And I tried to tell you all at once. Now, I should add, here's a scenario that this is not what I'm talking about. So let's say Miss Jones walks in there and she lays down the law and she's not having it. And let's say that they don't do that there. Even if they do, let's say that they decide to handle Miss Jones a little differently. They'll save these games for Mr. Thomas, the guy that comes in after her. So let's say that they find that the water pump is leaking. Okay, so while they're in changing it, they take this water pump off. And now that they have the water pump off, now behind that water pump where they could not see it before, nobody could see it before, not even the people that made the car could have seen it before. They take that water pump off and they look behind there and there's a little pipe that is also seeping or leaking some coolant. Well, the best customer-friendly thing to do at that point is to let you know, hey, Miss Jones, while we were doing the water pump, we were able to then get exposure to something we couldn't see before. It's leaking. Now, it's seeping right now, but the way coolant does, it seeps and then it leaks and then you're back. For not much more labor at all, while we're here, I've got the water pump away, this pipe is exposed, now's the time to do it. I just need a little bit extra labor and of course the seal for that. It's $52. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay, so that is viable. That is a real situation that can happen while we were doing something. We noticed something we didn't see before, or this wasn't able to be seen before, so now I'm just updating you about it. That's completely viable. That's completely true. That's good shop operations, good service writer operations. What I'm saying is, if they saw that water pump leaking and they saw that pipe leaking and they saw that engine oil leak and they saw all this and they chose not to tell you that, to let you kind of get really in on the check engine light thing and then really in on the coolant leak and then really in for the transmission fluid service, that's some sneaky crap. And I hope and pray that shop owners across the country realize this, because I think in a lot of the ways, shop owners, their money ebbs and flows like your life ebbs and flows. We used to be able to depend on, the seasons, right? So spring break, hey, everybody's going to get their car done, get it taken care of, so they can go on that trip to Colorado. So you'd see like an influx of work at that moment. And then for summer, if kids are coming home from school, you want to get them taken care of and checked out safely so they can get back to school safely and be good while they're up there, because you don't trust the shops that are up there and all that. And then you'd have a lull, and then here comes Christmas. So people are saving money because, oddly enough, they'd rather buy someone a Keurig coffee maker than make sure that their brakes don't fail them. So that's how we are. So there's Christmas, so sales kind of go down. And then Christmas transfers into New Year's / tax time. People are kind of, man, I think I owe $7,000 in taxes. I'd like to get that transfer service done, Kurt, but I'm gonna have to hold off on that. I'm not even gonna go in, and check it out. These things ebbed and flowed, and shop owners knew this. A strange thing since Obama, Bush, Too Big to Fail, the Junkers for Clunkers. From that point forward, I've seen those seasonal things not follow rhyme to reason. I mean, when you think you'd be totally dead, it's booming. And then when you're ready to go, guys, come on, we're about to get hit. Crickets. So it's a weird animal. So business owners are looking for the edge. And of course, you get some sly guys, some sly operations, some sly software that they come in and they promise the world. They promise the world. They say, well, this is going to improve your profits and help this and help that and takes away. And it's ridiculous. And of course, business owners who, man, if I miss this opportunity, and they're going to say, yeah, we helped the shop down the street double his profits. And so I kind of get it. Shop owners aren't just going to rest and relax on where they've been, because if you don't make some changes and you don't kind of follow along with what's happening in the trends of the automotive repair business, that's why you're seeing shops close down. But I'll tell you, by and large, why that's happening is because the technicians that work there have not went to ongoing training to start diagnosing, fixing, and correcting hybrid vehicles, electric vehicles, and things like that. And so the older cars that they could work on, a lot of those are getting aged out. Some shops don't even want to touch 20 and 25-year-old cars. We talked about that on the diagnostic side of stuff, where some shops, yes, they'll still work on 20 and 25-year-old cars, but the labor rate is excessive. So I would just tell you that, you can't offset it by walking in there and just saying, hey, I heard through the grapevine, Chief, that this is a possible thing that you might try on me today. I recommend you don't. Be bold in that. Let them know, look, I don't want to play this game. When you call me, I'm not looking for another call after that. Okay, I need to know what I'm paying for, what I'm getting, what I need, all in one. I want the full story. Don't play games with me. So I hope this has helped you. I really do. Again, this is my goal. My goal is to kind of expose these things so that you're aware of what's happening to you. Because if I didn't share this with you, you'd get these phone calls and think, wow, they're really trying to be careful with me, and they're really pacing things so I don't, you might start talking yourself into that. This is the way it should be, and it's not. And so the old way has worked. It's the quick check of the car. That's totally viable to do. It helps with bay efficiency time. It helps, the shop get cars in and out instead of taking, we got to do the DVI. Bobby's over there, Tortuga. He's taking 45 minutes to do a DVI on a car. That's wasteful, 100%. So the quick side of it is perfect. I'm 100% on with that. But when you call me, tell me everything. All right, so I hope this helped. I'll see you next time.